Hey, welcome to Discipleship Culture. My name is Zach Dietz. I'm your host, and I'm with Pastor AJ.
Today, we're going to share with you some stories of discipleship in our lives so you can see some real life application of what that looks like.
Today, I want to start with this mug. There's a word on here. It's incomprehensible.
It's
which
a
is
great word.
Not a word.
Okay.
But you made it up.
Yep.
So let's talk about it.
Okay. So a few years back, you reached out to me on a Sunday morning. You were under the weather, asked me to step in for worship because I used to be a worship pastor. And so I jumped in last minute to lead worship, which can bring some nerves. And I had some nerves going into that. The set went fine, but back then we were still ending the set like in prayer and praying over like the offertory that was about to happen. And so
Offertories.
yeah, so I began to pray and I was saying something along the lines of like, Lord, your love is inconceivable or incomprehensive. And what came out was incomprehensible, which is frustrating because it's not a real word. But what's funny is when I said the word, I could audibly hear heads pop up. Like people were like, what did he just say? And so by the time I got to
I was live streaming.
Yeah.
And my head popped up. I was like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah. And so by the time I got to my chair, I actually had people sending me memes. And then every year now that it comes up in their social media memories, I still get texts all the time. But the mug actually is from a guy that I disciple. And so he was my intern for many years. And one year he decided for Christmas to get me a gift. And so Cheeto, if you're listening, thank you so much. Cheeto got me this mug with my face on it and my trademark word, if you will, incomprehensible.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I have a prayer story.
Okay.
So I prayed at the end of a service at the end of a worship set one time, and I realized this halfway through, but I was praying, God, every move we make, every step we take, and then I realized
You were singing the
this
Police.
is a Sting song.
Yeah,
And then I started getting memes from
Bum,
a
bum,
bunch of
bum,
people.
bum. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it happens.
That's a good song though.
But so, man, I just wanted to share a story of like, this was one of the first times I ever like ventured into discipleship.
Okay.
And actually parents of a student came to me and said, hey, would you consider discipling our son? And I was like, sure. So it was kind of an awkward deal anyway, but our first time meeting was really awkward because he was on his phone the whole time, just, and so I was like, man, he's not into this.
Right.
I don't even know what I'm doing really,
Right.
but we'll keep doing it. So we met several times, and it was that every time. Like every time he came in, it was just on his phone. He was not interested in being there. You could tell he didn't want to be there. It was just a forced, awkward deal. I've since learned, we have a phrase we use that we got from a book, The Invested Life, FAT, and we'll talk about that some more, faithful, available, teachable. But had I realized in that moment, this kid wasn't fat,
Right.
I probably wouldn't have moved forward in that relationship. But there's also, in episode 1, we talked about not rushing things and giving some grace in the moment.
Right.
So there's two elements to that I think if I don't think I ever had that hard conversation with him of like, hey, like let's just pay attention for one thing. But so I made some missteps in that relationship.
Well,
and ultimately we got to a point where he showed up like a 4th or 5th time doing the same thing. And I was like, hey bro, like, I don't think this is going to work.
Right.
But I think had we had initial conversations to set the tone, it could have been better. But
Well, and that's the thing about discipleship is there has to be hard conversations. And so I'll share with you a hard conversation that my discipler had with me that was actually life-changing. So I had been youth pastor for only about a year or two. And then my wife got pregnant and we were expecting our first child, which was such a big deal. And so Armando was born, Armando Gonzalez V. He's my boy. I've been waiting my whole life to be a dad. And it was, one of the most exciting moments of my life. And that excitement, kind of took over in areas of my life where I was prioritizing it over things I shouldn't have been. Now, hear me. Family is most important. And me being a dad and me being a husband, that's my number one ministry, and nobody would ever question that. But what was happening is because I was so excited about being a dad, I really got lax on my other responsibilities. And so there was a time where our senior pastor, he reaches out to me and he says, be at the office tomorrow. We're meeting in the conference room at 10 a.m. on a Friday. And that's all it said. Yeah. Like you get that text from our pastor and you know something's up. So I'm racking my brain. Like, what could it be? Did someone say something? I did something I didn't. I was really panicked. And so I go in Friday morning and there is our pastor, but also my discipler. And what they said to me was, listen, we love how much you enjoy being a dad. You are a great dad. You are a great husband, and you are a great pastor. But at the end of the day, you are not living up to your potential. You are not being the pastor that we know God's called you to be. And they had very specific examples. And it was hard to sit in that and listen to that. And my temptation, my flesh at the beginning was I was tempted to deflect and have excuses for my behavior and why it should have been okay. But at the end of the day, as they explained these things to me, I had to accept that accountability. And I had to accept that at the end of the day, they were right. And it was a hard pill to swallow, but I'll tell you what, I love that they did that in my life because it motivated me to become the man that God had called me to be. And here's what's great. At no point in that conversation was there ever like, do better or else your job is at risk. Like that was not like two of my bosses sitting down with me telling me that if I don't do my job better, that I'm going to be fired, which in a lot of church settings or organizational settings, I mean, that's the conversation that's being had. But instead, these were two men who have been discipling me that said, we love you and we have seen so much potential in you that although this is a good thing in your life, you are not living up to the potential as a pastor that God's called you to. And we need that version of AJ. And so walking away from that conversation, I was just motivated to become that man. And that ultimately led for me to go back to school. Coming into Evergreen, I did not have any sort of a college degree and I had no aspirations to go back to college. And that motivated me to actually go back and pursue my education, to be able to say to my kids, you know, Dad did it. And I went from starting my undergrad on academic probation because of all those years that I messed it up to actually graduating with honors and then going and graduating with my master's with a 4.0. And that's not a flex on me. That is years of discipleship of these kinds of men pouring into my life and giving me the things that I need as far as, you know, discipline and working with integrity and all of that. So that way I could find that success. But it all started with an accountability conversation.
Well, and, you know, having your discipler there, Nick has the relational equity with you that like, having hard conversations obviously can ultimately be life-changing.
Right.
Like, and set somebody on a different course.
Exactly.
And so in discipleship, like, it's not just, we're just teaching you the word, but there's also rebuking that takes place in those conversations of like, hey, and I'll say this, like I've had this in discipleship relationships where the person I'm discipling challenges me. Like, and it works the other way around where not necessarily rebuking me or whatever, but it may be like something that they say that challenges me in my own walk with Jesus. I've seen that time after time. So that's like, I love that when I'm walking with somebody, I'm like, dang, what he just said to me, like, is taking me on a different course, like in a journey with Jesus. So anyway.
Was there ever a moment in one of your discipleship relationships where you looked at the person that God had called you to pour into and you looked at them and you were just so proud? You were like, and not because of your work, but because of what the Holy Spirit was doing in their life and the fact that you just got to be a part of it through the obedience of discipleship.
For sure. There's a young man that I was discipling. He's off to college now. But watching, like,
what's his name? You can give him a shout out.
Ryan, yeah.
Give him a shout out.
Ryan, if you're watching, this is for you, buddy. But man, he would come in every single time with questions. Like, we would do our normal, like, talk or whatever, to study in the Bible, whatever. But kid always had awesome questions. And it was like, some of them I'm like, I don't know how to answer this. Like, if I don't know how to answer this, usually what I'll tell him is like, bro, I don't know, but you know what? This week I'm going to go study that. I'm going to go look that up and I'll have an answer for you. So I think part of it is like, you don't have to know everything, but like what I saw in him was just from when we first started to when he went off to college, like he had so matured, like, and now he's doing grown man things.
Yeah.
And I'm watching him seek the Lord in those things. And it's like, golly, I love that. I love that God maybe used me in a small way in his life to just watch him grow. And that's been so rewarding, I think, in that relationship. So
yeah, to bring it full circle, the person that made me this mug is the youth pastor at Evergreen. His name is Christian James. We call him Cheeto. And so when Cheeto, right toward the end of his senior year, he reached out to me and he told me he might be called to student ministry. And up to this point, he was just one of my students. We weren't really doing discipleship a whole lot. But that summer, I invited him to come be a summer intern with me. And very quickly, I saw him being faithful, available, and teachable to this natural relationship that we started to build. And we weren't jumping right into a discipleship relationship. It was just a natural, like, hey, I want to learn about student ministry. But very quickly, I saw that eagerness in him that he wanted to grow in the Lord. So I invited him that whole next year to come be our student ministry intern. But through that internship, a discipleship relationship started. And it started off the same thing with him asking all kinds of questions, and not just questions about scripture, but questions about relationships and about ministry. And there were moments where he'd ask a question and I have to really think about it. Like, I don't know why we did that way. And then you have to kind of think through philosophically why we make the decisions we do. And then we learn about our relationship with the Lord and it helps us grow. But watching him grow in his walk in the Lord and watching him grow in his walk in ministry, I see where he is today and the man that he is today and husband now that he is today. And I'm just really excited that I got to play a small part in investing in his life.
yeah, man, so awesome. And I think that's part of what we want to do here is just like, we want to take a moment between different episodes and just share like actual stories of how God accomplished certain things in whoever we're discipling or even in us. And so, yeah, I love this, man. So
Discipleship is worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So next week, we're going to talk about being fat, right? Faithful, available, teachable. And we're going to unpack that. So, man, that's been huge for our church and our staff to learn what it means to disciple. So,
I think it's a great filter to view discipleship through because there's all those questions like, what is this supposed to look like? How do I know if they're ready? How do I know if I'm ready? And I think that acronym, faithful, available, teachable, being fat, really helps us know what discipleship should look like. Hey, thanks for watching Discipleship Culture. We ask that you give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe to our channel because we want to know what God is doing in your life in the area of discipleship. If you have any questions or comments about what God is teaching us and what God is teaching you, feel free to drop a comment. We'd love to engage with you. Stay tuned.